Once upon a time, somewhere in the early 70s, I was born to a lower middle class Bong family in Calcutta. Now, lower middle class Bong families in Calcutta didn't have money at that time, but they had a hidden agenda. They wanted to make their kids successful. And kids at that time had amazing opportunity according to the lower middle class Bong families. They could either become doctors, engineers, or lawyers, or they could become engineers, doctors, or lawyers, or they could become lawyers, doctors, and engineers. So that was the situation at that point of time. And I didn't want to be either of them. All I wanted to do was play cricket for my country. Don't look at me now, look at me there, and you'll realize what I was saying. So there I was miserable in school, didn't know what was going on, and my parents were miserable out of it. I remember when I was in sometime in class 6, I had once come back from a cricket match, and I was walking in, and I realized that my father's friends had come. So the moment I was walking in, one of my uncles, one of my father's friends called me and said, "Hey Sudip, come here, come here." In Bengali asked, "Boro hoye ki hobe? What will you go become when you grow up?" Before I could say anything, my father said, I'll tell you. Your son is going to be a doctor, Pradeep's son is going to be an engineer, Raja's son I think will become a lawyer, and if everybody becomes doctors, engineers and lawyers, who will sell potatoes? My son will sell potatoes in the sabji mandi. Well, as you are aware, that I didn't make it to the Indian cricket team. I hope you guys are aware of it. And I'm not selling potatoes either. So how did this young cricket-loving kid who never understood what was going on in classroom land up handling one of the most successful corporates of our country? Incidentally, VIP Industries happens to be the largest luggage manufacturing company of India and second largest in the world, is a story that I'd like to tell you. Actually, I'm going to tell you not about my whole life. I'm going to tell you about 5 days in my life which shaped my whole career. Now, these 5 days are normal 5 days. There's nothing extraordinary about them. But what was extraordinary was the lessons that they taught me. These lessons have stayed with me, and I even today use as much as I can from the lessons that I learned. And I hope you guys will also take back something from there. The first one involves my favorite game, cricket. I remember it was sometime in 1986. We had reached the semi-finals of the CAB, which is Calcutta Cricket Association of Bengal's tournament, which was inter-school tournament, and we had reached the semi-finals, I think. And we were to play St. Xavier School. And there was this huge talk about this young kid called Saurabh Ganguly, who was doing very well at that point of time. We have been hearing about him. And we didn't know, so somebody said that we need to get this guy out as soon as we can, otherwise there's no chance that we had. Now, we also had a very important weapon in our organization. There was one kid who had got transferred from Bombay, at that time it was Bombay, to Calcutta, at that time it was Calcutta. And the coach said, let's try him out. And I was asked to bat. And that day, I couldn't play him. He was fast, his line and length was perfectly well, and he was unplayable. I got hit a couple of times, and I walked out and I sat looking at him, bowling to others. I did the same thing to the other batsmen. I asked him, who is this guy? So somebody told me that this guy had represented Mumbai in the under-19 tournament. And that moment, I realized that I was not good enough to be a professional cricketer. All my life I wanted to be a cricketer, but at that moment I realized I was not good enough to be a professional cricketer. I was sad, but one thing was sure, that I cannot ever be a professional cricketer because I couldn't even play this guy. That day taught me a very important lesson, which I still carry with me. To know your strength is good, but to know your weakness is critical. Over the years, I've seen many people slog on things that they know that they're not good at, but they still do it. If you're doing something like that, ask yourself, drop it, because it will not take you much far. Even today, I practice that. Okay, so I was in school, and I was 14 years old at that time, and I realized that I was not good enough to play cricket. I still hated school. I didn't want to go. Now at that time, our school had this BA coaching where students who were trying to be teachers used to come to teach us. So one fine day, there was a lady who walked in, and at 14 years of age, I'd never seen something more beautiful than that. She came into the room and she introduced herself as Preeti Chandrasekhar. She said that she was going to be an English teacher for the next 1 month. Suddenly, the whole school was wonderful. I wanted to go to school. English became my favorite teacher or subject, and obviously Preeti Ma'am was my favorite teacher. But there was one problem. Preeti Ma'am never noticed me. I was just another kid in the class, and that is something that was not acceptable to me. But what could I do? I was a 14-year-old kid then. Kids in 14 years now can do a lot of things, but I couldn't. We were scared. So I did. And as a part of this whole thing, she said, so this was happening in the month of September. And around, so her course was supposed to end in the end of September. And she said she has to conduct a debate as a part of her curriculum. And the topic of the debate was, is education the only parameter to be successful? I said, yes, this is it. Because I love the topic, it was really close to my heart. And this was the only way Preeti Ma'am can ever recognize me. So without thinking, I put up my hand. The debate was supposed to be on 28th of September. I still remember the date. I remember these are the days that have taught me so many things, so I will probably never forget. And before that, I practiced at home and I did all the things. And then I went for this debate. And my very good friend, Sudip Ghose, I still remember, he's still a very good friend of mine, was speaking for the motion. He told everybody how important education is, how important the school degrees are, and things that we should do. My turn came. I got up. I had so many things to say, impress so many people, especially one particular lady in the room, and I froze. I couldn't say anything. I was scared. People were looking at me. There was a little bit of a murmur that happened, and then there was laughter, then there was the hooting, and I felt like crying, and then I saw somewhere around, and I saw Preeti Ma'am also smiling. I came back home and I realized, and I was telling myself, you're not good in cricket, you're not good in public speaking, what will you do? And then I started talking about it, I started talking to myself and said, I have to get over it. And I worked on it. And by the time I was in the first year, I was a live radio jockey with All India Radio doing live programs. That taught me the second lesson, which I still carry with me. And the lesson is, fear is inevitable. Face it. I have seen when you do anything new, 90% of the chances are that you will fail. And when you fail, fear will come in. I've seen people who give up driving because they have met with an accident. They have fear and they never can drive again. I've seen people who are into one job doesn't change their job because they're scared of changing the job. Forget about the job. I've seen people who don't even change divisions. A marketing guy doesn't want to go to sales. A sales guy doesn't want to come to marketing because they're scared of the unknown. Don't be, because it will kill you. Few years went, and I was working. I got a job in Whirlpool. It was my second job, and I was not doing well with my manager. So I called up one of my old bosses. His name was Uday Soni, somebody who had really worked very closely. My first job, which was in Bosch and Law, and I called him and I said, I need a job. I'm about to, I can't stay in Whirlpool anymore. Uday had quit and had joined a startup company. And he immediately sent me an offer letter with a good salary. And with a new job in hand, I went back to Whirlpool and I said, here is your job, I don't want it, I resign. And like all good organizations, when an employee resigns, suddenly organizations feel the importance of employee. And I was flown to New Delhi. And I was told how good I was. and the fact that they would give me a different role, and they gave me. So I flew back, and I was in a dilemma because I didn't know what to say. At one hand, I had a fantastic boss who came to me at the time of need and gave me a job in a startup, which was to me a little risky proposition, while the other, I had a great organization giving me a job with somebody that I didn't even know. I chose to go with Whirlpool. I'm a little dated guy, so I chose to go with Whirlpool, but that's not the lesson that I learned. For the next 2 days, I was trying to understand how do I say no to them, because I didn't want to give up the relationship. With a lot of courage and a lot of planning, I picked up the phone and called him. And I told him, boss, I don't think I'll be able to join you. So there was a pin of silence for some time, and then he said, why? I told him that, they're giving me a different role in Whirlpool and I think I should stay there. And I thought he's going to bang the phone. But as typical of the day, he smiled and he actually told me, don't worry, I understand, we'll talk later. We are still very, very good friends. Uday went on to be one of the most respected professional in the digital field of India. And I went on to work with Whirlpool. That day I learned the third lesson, which I still follow, which was, it's easier to say yes, but it's important to say no. When you want in life, there are times when you have to say no. Please say no, because it's important for you, and nobody will matter. Nothing will matter. Everything will be in place. So try to say no. Okay. So I worked in Whirlpool for about 4.5 years. I was in the category management in Whirlpool, and I wanted to shift to brand management. So in marketing, there's category management and brand management, and brand management roles were difficult to get. People who got into brand management stayed into brand management because it's very coveted kind of a position. I got a couple of interview calls. I went there, and most of them asked me questions about brand management, which I didn't answer because I didn't know about it. So I was not getting through. And somewhere in the month of October, I got a call from a company called Merck Electronics, the owners of Onida brand, and they said I had to meet one Mr. Chandramouli, Venkatesh Chandramouli, on 31st of October 2002. I remember the date because it's my wife's birthday. And I went to meet Mouli at Grand Hyatt in New Delhi, and we spoke about, he took my interview for about 45 minutes. He didn't even ask me one single question on brand management. It was all on category management. And I said, I asked him, why aren't you asking me questions on brand management? He said, I saw your CV, you don't know anything about it, so why should I ask you questions about brand management? I want to understand how much you know about category management, because I would gauge by that how deeper you have gone in your work. So that if I give you a job, I would expect you to go that deep. You have to be thorough and you have to be professional on that. And I liked the guy. I said, wow, this is the kind of guy that I like to work with. Remember 2002, the color TV market was dominated by the Koreans and the Japanese. And Onida was a faded company. And I joined Onida. I didn't join Onida, I joined Chandramouli. And that day, it's a very important lesson. In life, you'll meet many people. One or two will be qualified to be your guru. If you meet a guru, keep him. Lose your ego and let them, guide you. Molly, even today, I get great advice from Molly. He went on to be the managing director of Mondelez, and we are still great. We have a great relationship going. And remember, this is something that I think we should understand. We should understand from sports people. Even the best of the people have a guru. Do you think Roger Federer needs a coach? Do you think Virat Kohli needs a batting coach? But they still have it. Because at the top, you need to keep on improving and improving a lot. So that's my fourth lesson that I learned, and I still follow this. The fifth was amazing day. This was 23rd March 2008, the day I was elevated as the CEO of VIT Industries. It was on the cards, and we were having this sales conference in Jaipur. My boss, Radhika Piramal, she flew in the afternoon and she spoke to me saying she's going to give me a surprise, and she said I'm going to announce the elevation in the evening. And I was happy because it's the honor office that I was getting. an announcement happened and there was a barrage of, congratulatory note. People called up, the Indian media picked up, all newspapers had coverage, everywhere, everybody, and I was in cloud nine, because all I wanted was this job to become a CEO of an organization. We came back from the conference, and I remember that day very clearly. Radhika came to me, she presented me with champagne bottle and a header, a table header that says, "The buck stops here." At that moment, I quite didn't understand what she was trying to say. To me, I mean, I